My parents took my disability checks without telling me, so I filed charges and let the entire family watch them face the consequences. When I was 17, I thought my life ended the night of that crash. It was supposed to be a short drive home after my friend's birthday. One slippery turn, one flash of headlights, and then silence. I woke up 3 days later in a hospital bed with my right leg wrapped in metal rods and gauze. The doctor said I was lucky to be alive. At the time, it didn't feel like luck. It felt like punishment. My parents were there every day. My mom holding my hand, my dad pacing the room, mumbling about insurance and what comes next. They told everyone how they were staying strong for me. Neighbors brought casseroles. My aunt whispered that my parents were angels for what they were doing. I believed it. I wanted to believe it. When the doctor mentioned disability support and financial aid for my recovery, my parents stepped in before I could even speak. Mom said gently, "Sweetheart, let us handle the paperwork. You just focus on healing." Dad nodded, adding, "It's a nightmare of forms and phone calls. You don't need that stress right now." I didn't question it. I couldn't. I was 17, scared, and completely dependent on them. The days blurred into physical therapy sessions and sleepless nights listening to the sound of rain tapping the hospital windows. Every small step on my crutches felt like both victory and defeat. And through it all, my parents reassured me, "We've got everything under control." When I finally got home, our living room looked different, cleaner, cozier. There was a new TV, and Mom said it was a stress relief gift from family friends. I didn't think twice. I was too focused on learning how to walk again. If only I'd known that while I was rebuilding my body, they were quietly cashing in on my pain. The months after I got home felt like limbo. My friends moved on with school, part-time jobs, and college talk. I was stuck measuring progress in inches, how far I could bend my knee, how long I could stand before the pain made me sit. My parents handled everything else, or so I thought. I'd hear them whispering sometimes in the kitchen. My name, followed by words like deposit or processing. Whenever I walked in, the conversation stopped. Mom would smile too quickly and ask, "Do you want tea, honey?" I told myself I was being paranoid. They'd done so much for me. How could I question them? Still, little things didn't add up. The fridge was suddenly stocked with imported food. Dad traded in his old sedan for a newer model, claiming he got a good deal. We were never a rich family, but now there were brand-name clothes and a new leather couch. I asked once, jokingly, "Did we win the lottery or something?" Dad chuckled. "You worry too much, son, just heal. That's your job." I tried to believe him. But one night, while I was practicing walking in the hallway, I overheard something that made my stomach twist. Mom was on the phone, laughing softly. "Yes, the payments came in this month. Thank God, right? We can finally catch up on the credit card." Payments. Plural. I froze in the dark, my crutch squeaking against the floor. She didn't mean my disability payments, did she? I told myself it couldn't be that. They said everything was delayed, that the government was still processing things. But the more I thought about it, the more that explanation cracked apart. They weren't struggling. They were comfortable. And if my parents were suddenly comfortable, someone else must have been paying for it. I just didn't know yet that the someone was me. By 19, I was finally walking again, limping, sure, but walking. I remember that first day without crutches felt like freedom. I told myself the worst was behind me. I'd survived the accident, survived the pain, survived the months of humiliation where even showering required help. I was ready to start my life again. I enrolled in community college and picked up a part-time job at a bookstore. Every paycheck, no matter how small, felt like proof I was taking control back. My parents cheered me on, told me how proud they were. They still managed my disability account, saying it was just safer since I might forget deadlines or mess up the paperwork. I didn't push back. They'd done so much, why doubt them? Besides, it was easier not to think about it. Every time I tried, that familiar guilt crept in. They took care of you. They sacrificed everything, but sometimes their words didn't match their actions. Like when I came home from work one night and saw delivery boxes stacked by the door, new gadgets, expensive cookware. Mom said they were discounted. Dad joked, "Your mother's a deal hunter." Still, the upgrades kept coming. Fancier dinners, weekend trips, new furniture, and every time I asked how, Mom would frown. "Don't you trust us? After everything we've done, you think we'd take advantage of you?" That word, trust, hung between us like a test I always failed. So I let it go. I told myself not to ruin peace over suspicion. I focused on my classes, my limp getting lighter with each month. Life was quiet again, at least it was until a family dinner changed everything. Because that night a single offhand comment from my cousin would open a door I didn't even know existed. And once I stepped through it, there was no going back. It happened at Thanksgiving. The house smelled like cinnamon candles and roasted turkey, and for once, everyone was in a good mood. My cousin Lauren, she's a caseworker for social services, was talking about her job when she suddenly looked at me and said, "Hey, if you're still getting disability payments, make sure you check your annual statements online. They've been digitizing everything now." I laughed awkwardly. "Statements?" "Yeah," she said casually. "They usually mail them out too. You can see every deposit." I froze for a split second, the fork halfway to my mouth. My parents' eyes flickered at each other just for a moment, but it was enough. Then Dad forced a laugh. "Oh, we handle that for him. It's easier that way." Lauren shrugged. "Well, he's an adult now. He should be able to access it himself." The air shifted. I felt it. Something heavy, something unsaid. I played it off, changed the subject, but the thought wouldn't leave my head. That night, while everyone slept off the food and wine, I sat in my old room, staring at the ceiling. Statements, deposits, online access. It was past midnight when I finally turned on my laptop. My hands shook as I searched for the portal Lauren mentioned. I entered my information, reset an old password, and waited for the page to load. When it did, I swear my chest went cold. Line after line of deposits. Thousands, tens of thousands. Payments listed every month for 5 years, all to an account I didn't recognize. One linked to my parents' names. $80,000. I sat there in silence, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Every memory, every gift, every "we're struggling" speech flashed before me in a different light. They hadn't just lied, they'd built their comfort on my pain. I didn't sleep that night. My body felt numb, but my mind wouldn't stop racing. By sunrise, I'd rehearsed what I'd say 100 times. I told myself I'd stay calm, logical, just ask for the truth. But the second I saw my mom in the kitchen making coffee like nothing was wrong, something inside me cracked. "Mom," I said quietly, "why are my disability checks in your account?" She froze mid-stir. The spoon clinked against the cup, and for a heartbeat there was nothing, just silence thick enough to choke on. Then she turned, her face already wet with tears. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispered, "you don't understand. We used that money for your therapy, your food, your rent. Every cent was for you." I felt my pulse spike. "Then why does it show withdrawals for vacations? For a new car?" Her expression twisted. "You're being ungrateful," she snapped, voice trembling but sharp. "Do you have any idea what we went through? We carried you for years. That money was for us, too. We earned it." Dad walked in, groggy, but when he heard us, his face turned red. "Enough of this nonsense," he barked. "You think the world owes you something just because of your leg? That money was family money. Family money?" I repeated. "It was mine." He slammed his mug on the table. "Don't talk to your mother like that. We did everything for you. You'd be nothing without us." My chest felt tight. It wasn't just the theft. It was the way they twisted it, made me feel like I was wrong for even asking. My sister, half awake, appeared in the doorway, whispering, "You're seriously doing this to them? After all they've done?" In that moment, I realized what kind of trap I'd been in all along. It wasn't just financial, it was emotional. They hadn't just taken my money. They'd made me believe I owed them my silence. For days, the house felt like a minefield. My parents acted as if nothing happened, like our screaming match was just another family misunderstanding. but I couldn't let it go. Every time I saw their faces, every time my mom smiled like she hadn't stolen my future, the anger burned hotter. One night, when they went out for dinner, I went searching. Not for revenge, just for truth. I started in the attic, where old boxes of paperwork were stacked beside dusty photo albums. The air smelled like mildew and secrets. I found a box labeled Insurance and Medical. Inside were unopened envelopes, official letters addressed to me, disability statements going back years, some still sealed. My name on every one, their handwriting scribbled across the tops, handled. I tore one open. The words blurred as I read, direct deposit confirmed to secondary account, redacted. My parents' account. I sat there on the floor, shaking. Then I found the receipts, designer stores, airline tickets, restaurants. The dates lined up perfectly with the monthly deposits. While I was in therapy, eating cheap microwave meals, they were taking vacations and buying luxury items. I remember whispering to the empty attic, "How could you do this?" My voice cracked in the silence. That night, I didn't confront them. I couldn't. I just sat in my room staring at those papers spread across the floor. Every line was proof of what I didn't want to believe. My parents weren't protectors. They were thieves. I took photos of everything. Each statement, each receipt, each lie. When I finally looked up from the evidence, something inside me shifted. I wasn't scared anymore. I was done being their quiet, obedient son. But I had no idea the next discovery would make all of this look small. Because what I'd find next wasn't just theft. It was betrayal written into official records. A few days later, I met with Lauren, my cousin, the one who worked in social services. I didn't tell her everything at first, just enough to make it sound like a weird mix-up with the payments. She looked concerned but calm, saying she could check something for me if I wanted. 2 days later, she called. Her voice sounded strange, tight, cautious. "Hey, I looked into it," she said. "And, Tay, you might want to sit down." I already was. "They filed for guardianship over you," she said slowly. "After your accident. They told the agency you were mentally unfit to manage finances or make decisions on your own." I didn't speak. I couldn't. "They submitted a doctor's evaluation," she continued, "signed by some psychiatrist I can't even find in the registry. Tay, it's forged." For a long moment, all I could hear was the hum of my refrigerator and my heartbeat slamming in my ears. Guardianship. Mental incompetence. My parents had legally branded me incapable, just so they could steal freely. When I finally spoke, my voice came out like a whisper. "So legally. They own me?" Lauren hesitated. "Not exactly. But they control your benefits. And they've been renewing the paperwork every year. Tay, this isn't a misunderstanding. It's fraud." That night, I sat on the floor surrounded by the photos I'd taken of the receipts and statements. Suddenly, they weren't just evidence of greed. They were evidence of a crime. My parents hadn't just stolen from me. They'd stolen me. I remember staring at the documents, every signature suddenly sinister, every forged line a knife. My entire life had been rewritten behind my back. I whispered into the dark, "You think I'm not capable? You'll see exactly how capable I am." And in that moment, something inside me hardened. The scared kid they'd manipulated for years was gone. What replaced him was someone who wanted justice. Filing a complaint felt like crossing a line I could never return from. My lawyer, one recommended by Lauren, told me to keep quiet until the investigation began. But in a house like mine, secrets didn't last long. It started when Mom found one of the missing folders in my room. I came home to her sitting at the table, eyes red, papers spread out like shattered glass. Dad stood behind her, jaw tight. "What is this?" she demanded, her voice breaking. "You're talking to lawyers now? You're trying to put your own parents in jail?" I swallowed hard. "You forged my medical forms. You lied to the government. You stole from me for years." Dad slammed his hand on the table, making me flinch. "You're destroying this family over money. Do you even hear yourself?" Mom's tears turned to sobs. "We did everything for you. You were broken, Tay. We gave up everything." And just like that, they flipped it again. turning my pain into proof of their martyrdom. But this time, I didn't back down. I just said quietly, "No, you took everything I had left." The next morning, my phone exploded with messages. My sister had posted on Facebook, "Imagine suing your own parents after they spent years taking care of you. Some people have no soul." Hundreds of comments. Family, friends, neighbors, they all believed her. Ungrateful brat. He's disgusting. They should have left him in that hospital. I sat on my bed, scrolling through the words, each one cutting deeper than the last. It wasn't just isolation. It was public humiliation. That night, I turned off my phone and sat in the dark, completely alone. For the first time since the accident, I didn't feel broken because of my leg. I felt broken because of them. The day after the Facebook fallout, I met with my lawyer, a calm older man named Harris who'd seen cases like mine before. His office smelled faintly of old books and burnt coffee. I was still shaking when I sat down, my phone buzzing nonstop in my pocket from angry messages I refused to read. "I don't know if I can do this," I admitted. "They've turned everyone against me." He folded his hands and looked at me with quiet certainty. "You're not here to win popularity, son. You're here to take back your dignity. They made a choice. Now you make yours." That sentence hit harder than anything I'd heard in years. We went through the evidence together, every receipt, every forged document, every fake evaluation. Harris nodded, impressed by my organization. "You've got enough here to prove financial exploitation and fraud," he said. "We'll file both criminal and civil claims. But you need to be ready for backlash. Families like this, they fight dirty." I stared at the photos on his desk, the receipts for luxury bags, the resort bookings, the signatures pretending to be mine. And then I nodded. Let them fight. The weeks that followed were a blur of statements, signatures, and official letters. Investigators contacted me for interviews. They confirmed that the doctor's license on the evaluation form didn't exist. My parents had used an outdated template they found online and forged everything from scratch. When the official case was filed, it hit our town like a bomb. Reporters called. Extended relatives messaged me to drop it before you ruin the family's name. My sister went silent, probably because her own college tuition had come from the same stolen account. It wasn't easy. It wasn't clean. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't reacting to their control. I was challenging it. And even though I was terrified, beneath all that fear, something unexpected began to grow. Pride. The courthouse smelled like disinfectant and anxiety. My palms were damp as I sat behind my lawyer, staring at the two people who'd given me life and then spent years profiting off it. Mom wouldn't look at me. Dad sat stiff, his hands clasped like he was praying. When the judge entered, everything felt unreal. The gavel's echo cut through the room, and suddenly this wasn't a family argument anymore. It was a crime. Harris stood first, his voice calm but precise. "Your Honor, we have clear evidence of forged medical documents, fraudulent guardianship, and misappropriation of disability funds." He clicked his remote, and the projector came alive with scanned copies of the paperwork. My forged signature, the fake doctor's note, the bank records linking my benefits to their account. Every slide felt like a knife. Mom began crying the moment her name appeared on the statements. "We didn't mean to steal," she sobbed. We didn't think he could handle the money." Dad's jaw clenched. "We earned that money." "We cared for him," he said, his voice echoing through the courtroom. The judge raised a hand. "Enough." Her tone was final, cold. She turned to me. "Do you wish to speak?" My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear myself, but I stood anyway. "I trusted them," I said softly. "I thought love meant they'd protect me. Instead, they used my pain to build their comfort. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for the truth." For the first time in years, they didn't have a response. Just silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. The verdict came quickly. Restitution, probation, and immediate removal of guardianship. My name was finally mine again. As the bailiff led them away, Mom looked back at me through tear-swollen eyes. But I didn't flinch, because that day, for once, they were the ones who couldn't stand on their own. After the trial, the silence didn't end. It just changed shape. The courtroom may have closed, but the whispers didn't. Every phone call, every message carried some variation of the same line. How could you do this to your own parents? Extended family divided overnight. Half called me brave, the other half called me heartless. My aunt messaged, "They're old, they didn't know better," while my uncle accused me of embarrassing the family name. Even my sister refused to speak to me. Her last text said, "I hope you're happy. You ruined Mom and Dad's lives." But I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel anything. I just felt empty, like every part of my identity had been stripped bare. For years, I'd built my life around pleasing them, earning their approval, believing their love meant safety. And now, all of that was gone. The only thing I had left was freedom. I used part of the restitution to move into a small apartment in another town. Nothing fancy, but mine. No one controlled my mail. No one monitored my bank account. No one called me ungrateful for breathing. At night, I'd sit by the window with a cup of tea, watching the streetlights flicker against the quiet road below. I'd think about how strange it was to rebuild your life after betrayal. Not from strangers, but from the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally. A few months later, I donated a portion of the recovered money to a local disability rights group. It felt symbolic, a way to reclaim something good from the mess they'd made. When I handed over the check, the director said softly, "You're helping people like you." That sentence stayed with me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a victim or a burden. I felt like a survivor, and slowly that empty feeling began to fade. It's been 3 years since that day in court. Sometimes I still catch myself flinching when my phone buzzes, expecting another angry message or guilt-ridden apology that never comes. But the silence now, it's peaceful. I haven't spoken to my parents since the sentencing. They tried once, sent a letter through my sister. It wasn't an apology, it was a plea. "We're family. Can't we move past this?" I read it once, folded it carefully, and tucked it into a drawer I never open. Because forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and I refuse to rewrite the story they tried to erase. People still ask if I regret pressing charges. My answer never changes. No. Because the truth is, I didn't take their freedom. They gave it away the moment they forged my name, the moment they decided comfort mattered more than conscience. I walk with a slight limp these days, a reminder of the night everything changed. But when I look in the mirror, I don't see the broken kid who needed saving. I see a man who learned how to stand, even when the people closest to him tried to make sure he couldn't. Some nights, I sit by my window with the lights off, the city humming softly below, and I let myself feel grateful. Not for what happened, but for surviving it. For learning that blood isn't thicker than betrayal. For finally choosing myself. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Love without respect is just control dressed up in kindness. And no amount of guilt can chain you to people who feed off your silence. So when people say, "You must miss them," I just smile. Because the truth is, I don't miss them. I miss who I thought they were, and I'm finally at peace with letting that version of them stay buried.